Hi, welcome to Road Bike Culture. I'm your host, Kevin Isley. Today we're going to talk about a stiff bike. What does that mean when people say, my bike is stiff, my bike is 10% stiffer than my old bike? Well, we're going to talk about that right now. Deflection is flex, and all bikes do that. But the more deflection you have, the more flexible your bike is. And for a heavy rider, this can seem kind of squirrely or soft, but it might be the right kind of bike for a lighter rider looking for a comfortable ride. A bike with very little deflection is called a stiff bike. And a stiff bike can be very jarring for riders going over bumps, but it is generally a more precise bike. The next aspect of ride feel for a bike rider is called vertical compliance. So when somebody says, my bike has a good road feel, they're really talking about vertical compliance. So what is vertical compliance? Well, vertical compliance, the best way I can describe it is when you're riding your bike and you hit a pothole, if you don't feel like your fillings are gonna fall out of your teeth, that's probably a pretty compliant bike. If you have a bike that's flexible, every time you do a hard pedal and that frame flexes just a little bit, that is energy lost. But the stiffer the bike is, the more energy you save, but the harder it is to ride because you don't have as much ride compliance. So it's a little more uncomfortable. This is the give and take of road bike riding. Can a bike be too stiff? Technically no. Because the stiffer the bike is, the more energy efficient it is, the faster you're going to corner, the faster you're going to climb. It's going to be considered a peppier bike. But the problem is getting it to a really stiff point and keeping it very light, because weight is a big issue when it comes to bike. Can a bike be too flexible? Absolutely. If you're pushing down on those pedals and you can actually feel the frame flexing, the bike is too flexible for you and your weight, and you're losing a lot of energy. And when you go down a mountain pass on those really sharp corners and you're leaning your bike over and you're setting your weight up and you're putting it all on that frame and you feel that flex, that's going to change the direction of your wheels just slightly, and that bike is going to feel really squirrely, and that's not good. Smaller frames are lighter and stiffer, and the bike riders are also lighter. The bigger the frame, the taller the person, the more power output they have, the heavier they are, the more flexible the frame gets. This is a challenge for all bicycle engineers, how to overcome the paradox of bigger, more powerful riders on more flexible frames. But this is really only noticeable on size 61 centimeters and above. But aside from the extreme ends of the equation, from a really flexible bike to a really ultra stiff racing bike, the middle part of it, it's really hard for the average rider to determine if a bike is stiffer or more flexible than maybe the last bike they had. The engineers can all say, when we hook our bikes up to our machines and we flex them and the vibrations go across to spectral analysis, we are going to give you a 10% increase in rigidity and a 4.5% increase in vertical compliance, giving you a stiffer, more comfortable ride. Are you going to notice that? Probably not. Some people seem to notice everything, and some people don't seem to notice a lot about their bike. I think we just about covered it. Lateral deflection, vertical compliance. All right, if you like this episode, please subscribe. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm everywhere. And until then, I hope to see you out there on the road.